Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Walter's World, the podcast series from Astadia. If any of you have been following the podcast series, you know one of the very first podcasts we did in this series was with Bob Ellsworth from Microsoft. And I am honored and delighted to have Bob back again with us. I don't know if everyone knows this yet, but Bob, who I consider really, if not one of the pioneers, the pioneer, who has started this movement for mainframe modernization and migration. So to see an icon like him reach, the end of this portion of his career, I thought it would be great to have him back on to talk about his experiences and what he sees in this space. So Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to come back and talk with us again.
Well, thank you so much, Walter. It's great to be here again and looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much. Bob, I know a lot of people in this industry know you and know your background, but for those who don't, can you describe your early career, back to when you first started working on the mainframe? I think people would find that fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a little bit of an early start back in 1971. I was a systems programmer at Virginia Tech, working my way through college there in the data center, maintaining an MVT system, migrating to MVS, installing VM370. And so I got some great experiences while I was working my way through school. And then I had the opportunity to join this little startup called Amdahl, which delivered the first plug-compatible mainframe, compatible with IBM's mainframe of the day. And so I joined Amdahl in '76 and continued working at Amdahl for 24 years until I came to Microsoft.
Yeah, being a systems programmer, you were involved at the most intimate levels and understood what mainframes were really about. And I know in your career, that's been a help for you to be able to know what it's like to have that history of these applications that are put together and why they're put together the way that they are.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Systems programming experience was just so valuable in understanding how these systems work and how they run. My favorite language is assembler. And it's because, of course, maintaining the operating system, all the exits you write, everything you do as an assembler. And that gets really down to the machine level of understanding how these machines actually work.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, can you kind of describe what it was like, getting the program started at Microsoft that was focused on getting mainframe customers to look at alternatives to what they had always been doing?
Yeah, it was really the ability to combine, my passion for mainframes and competing with IBM, and also my passion that I've developed at Microsoft. And the way we started was to recognize that there were some partners out there that had started to build tools and services around mainframe migration, and it was about first building this mainframe migration alliance so that we could have an ecosystem of partners to help our customers on this journey. And it was a little bit of an uphill battle at Microsoft, because at Microsoft, they think in volumes. You think of how many millions of Windows servers can we sell, and don't really think about the impact you'd have with a smaller, a larger platform that can do many times more than a Windows server, but also the fact that there weren't that many out there at the time, 160,000 mainframes. So it was a little bit of a struggle getting the right kind of attention from the executives, but it was so rewarding helping our mutual customers understand how to migrate their workloads.
Absolutely, that certainly makes sense. Bob, I think it was 2008 when you and I first met. Back then, cloud was an interesting concept, but it perhaps wasn't certainly what it is today. So while we used to work with folks who were, looking at on-premise alternatives, how important has Azure been in getting people to consider moving from the mainframe? Has that been something that has helped people move forward in considering alternatives?
Yeah, it's absolutely been a catalyst. And so you think of customers' legacy systems, mainframe and Unix systems that they have in their data center, even Windows systems. And customers a lot of times, the old saying was, you never got fired for making an IBM decision. And so staying on the mainframe was a very viable option, and IBM continues to enhance the mainframe and evolve it as they will. But what happened with the presence of the cloud and Azure being one of those cloud providers, it caused customers to start to think about digital transformation and using new technologies to evolve their businesses and the solutions they provide both internally and to customers. And the cloud is really a key component of that digital transformation. Well, for a customer that has a mainframe, that's got to be part of the digital transformation journey. So definitely the cloud has been a catalyst to cause customers to start to question, do they need to keep running their workload on a mainframe, or do they have options to move those workloads off and take advantage of the cloud?
The options, I think, has been paramount as we've looked at this. I don't know about your experience back in, oh, this must go back 8, 9 years when
Mhm.
people first started talking to us about cloud, and they were all interested to know if we had the capabilities of moving to the cloud. And we did then, thank goodness for Azure.
Sure.
Uh, but no one wanted to be first. It was still something that they could see at that point in time, the benefits that were there and the options it gave them and what it opened up to them beyond what they had been doing just in the mainframe. Now, I would bet it's the same for you. I don't have a conversation with a potential customer where they're not talking about cloud, if not in the first sentence, by the second
Mhm.
sentence.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Customers' adoption of cloud, of trust in the cloud has dramatically increased because of the capabilities of the cloud, the level of security and availability that's available if you properly architect it. And so because of customers' trust in the cloud increasing, they're starting to trust the cloud for their mission critical mainframe workloads as well. So we're definitely seeing that shift. I would say 5, 6 years ago, maybe 20% of my engagements, they consider the cloud as a destination. Now it's closer to 60 to 70% is the cloud is really the chosen destination for these workloads.
Makes sense. Um, you're talking about the benefits of the mainframe. Performance obviously has always been a big part of that. What has been your experience in working with your customers who've actually made this transformation where
Mhm.
they're now running in the cloud? Are they seeing the comparable level of performance that they have had for years on the mainframe?
Yeah, that's a great area to delve into because you think of the mainframe, a mainframe, Z series processor, a Z15, it delivers about 2,000 MIPS, million instructions per second. An Intel Core does about 200 MIPS, so it does 1/10 of that. And so that is a question that customers will ask, well, how in the world can I run this workload that's on the mainframe, expecting this capacity and having to run on a processor that's 1/10 the size? And what we found is that in particular for batch, storage systems, premium storage in the cloud, solid state devices really cut down on batch latency for doing IO operations. So a lot of times we'll see that batch runs faster when it's moved to an x86 cloud platform than it did on the mainframe because of that latency being reduced. And it's so important for CPU intensive workloads to be able to multitask and be
Right.
able to scale out. So as long as the workload is constructed in the right way, which most workloads are, we just don't see performance issues in moving these workloads to the cloud.
I know a lot of folks talk about, how do you even consider moving a huge mainframe? But if you think of it as an LPAR at a time
Yeah,
or a little segment at a time, that elephant doesn't seem so scary to start to eat then.
you're absolutely right. It's not the total capacity of the mainframe that's important, but the size of the LPAR. And then, as you well know, taking an LPAR, you don't put it into a single virtual machine. You
Right.
break it up between the data layer and the application layer and utilities layer into separate virtual machines. We've had partners run a benchmark that we created a number of years ago called the ZREF benchmark to see how much capacity they could get in a single virtual machine. And partners, and these are published studies, partners have gotten 25 to 27,000 MIPS out of a single 128 core virtual machine. And that's large enough to handle 95, 98% of the biggest LPARs out there.
That's an impressive number.
Certainly is. Yeah, I was very pleased to see the results of those studies.
Bob, we were talking about, how things have changed, and there have always been concerns that people have had. I say this so often, the beauty of the mainframe is that it works the same way every day with the same reliable results.
Mhm.
So people have concerns about looking at alternatives. What I'm interested in are the reasons that companies were hesitant to consider non-mainframe alternatives in those mainframe environments. Has that started to change over the years?
Yeah, it absolutely has. A couple observations that I've seen is that because of improvements in the x86 technologies and architectures, You think of a mainframe, you need to have reliability, availability, serviceability. Is the way that we've always thought of mainframes as a hugely RAS platform. And properly architected, the cloud, Azure delivers the same levels of RAS that you come to expect from the mainframe. And a big part of that is the tools, technologies, and services have been designed to allow you to deliver that. There was an old saying that a fellow worker that we know quite well coined the term Azure is the new mainframe.
Yes.
And it absolutely is the case that all of the services you need are there to deliver what you expect from a mainframe mission critical workload.
That's a great point. And to kind of extend on that, the reasons that companies would consider to move off of the mainframe. Originally what we always heard was it was a great way to save money. Yeah. But the services that you talk about, do they start to become a component that people consider as to why there might be better options for them to take a look at?
Yeah, that's a real good question, real good point, because absolutely reducing costs, that's important to most customers. And absolutely moving from an expensive Z-series processor to x86, huge cost savings for the compute and the storage. But in addition to that, looking to the future, we talked about digital transformation, and real digital transformation really is about embracing new technologies to solve business challenges and to advance the business. And that's really what the cloud provides, is that technology for digital transformation. Instead of keeping your system locked away in the mainframe, the data locked away in the mainframe, exposing that data to machine learning and BI and AI with standard services is part of that vision and part of the implementations that our customers look forward to. So it is really about digital transformation utilizing these cloud-based technologies. And you also think about building an application, in the 90s, 80s and 90s when we were building apps, you had to do everything yourself. Sure, you did SVCs and called system services, but it was just at the root level of the application. Today, building new applications, you build applications consuming services and let the vendors provide the services that you need. So with that shift, using those services, the only way to really make use of those is by moving the data and the workload up to the cloud.
Yeah, that has certainly been something that I've seen as well, where people start to be able to use those building blocks so they're not building from scratch all the time. They can leverage what is there and available. And it's been a real paradigm shift, I feel, for these organizations.
Very much so. In some cases, it's a vision. So I'll give you a great analogy. So I've got a Ford Expedition, and it has a trailer towing package on it. I don't own a trailer, but if I ever want to pull a trailer, I can. Well, and that's the way customers think about the cloud also, that they may not need to consume or have the budget or the strategies to consume those cloud services initially, but by moving to the cloud, they have the ability to consume those services when the time is right. So it's really about opening up the doors to new technologies.
I love that analogy. That's picture perfect. Let's talk for a second about the development teams. Being an old mainframe programmer myself, we were used to doing things a certain way. Have you found that people adapt pretty easily to these new concepts, these new paradigm shifts in terms of development?
Some people do, some people don't. And I think that's always a what if. It's what I find in engaging with customers and working with the development teams. Some of the people think, hey, I can increase productivity if they haven't already moved off of green screens for doing development, to IBM Developer for Z or other tools available from our partners. They may be hesitant to think about developing in a new IDE, and that's a challenge. Those that embrace new IDEs, Eclipse, Visual Studio for doing development, they see that their productivity increases. And as long as they're willing to take that first step and learn these new IDEs, then the world opens up to them. And once you're in the new developer environment, then you can replace components with Eclipse or with Eclipse, Java or C#. So there's so much you can do using the new IDE. But a lot of cases, customers, the older guys like us that have been in the industry a long time, maybe stuck in our ways. Some people just don't feel like they want to learn these new developer environments. So that's a challenge. On the other hand, what we find is those that really know their value is they know the business logic. They've built these systems. And those people, if they're close to retirement, they want their legacy to continue. and for those systems to continue serving the business. And so in a lot of cases, they will work directly with the new kids that are coming in that know those IDEs and help teach them the business logic, collaborate together to build out these systems to make improvements or embrace this transformation to the cloud. So it's really about sharing those experiences, sharing that knowledge for the next generation to be able to support the great work that they had done. And so we see a couple classes like that, either embracing the technologies themselves or helping others that know the technologies support the applications they built.
I think that is a fantastic example. I have been very lucky over the years. I've always enjoyed training and being able to go out and train people on new environments like Visual Studio or Eclipse and these tools. People who are older than me and have been doing the same thing for 40 years. It's always interesting. On day one, there's this concern, but to go back 3 months later and to hear these people talk about, wow, I love working in this new environment.
Yeah.
To hear the CIOs talk about, we always used to seem to have a mainframe development group and a distributed development group, and they never were able to speak. Now having common tools, these older mainframe developers get a sense of pride in being able to share what they've created with people who will hopefully be able to extend that moving forward based on some of the things that we talked about before.
Absolutely.
How about data? I find this fascinating that, mainframe data, you get great performance, but oftentimes it's, if you want something new, you've got to go find a programmer to write something new for you.
Oh, sure.
Being able to put data in repositories where you could leverage things like data analytics, business intelligence as a general rule. Has that been a dramatic change for organizations?
Yeah, it really has. That's been a hallmark and a strategy here at Microsoft. We call that self-service BI. And that challenge on the mainframe, boy, sure, you've got data sitting there in VSAM or DB2 or other data stores, and to get access to it, you do have to build a program. You have to write the application to do that. And that really delays that ability to analyze that data and take action on it, turning data into action. So the strategy here has always been self-service BI, giving individuals that don't really know the format of the database, access to tools so they can do that business intelligence themselves. And that's part of the benefit of migrating or replicating data from the mainframe to the cloud, or migrating the data in the applications, is then you can expose it to the tools like BI analytics, machine learning. You can expose it and individuals can do self-service BI. Business owners can do that. There's a number of tools that I use. Power BI is a great example.
Oh, yes.
That it has connectors to be able to connect back to the mainframe data. And so think about using those tools that anybody can learn to use. You don't have to be a programmer to be able to turn data into action.
Data into action is such a key component. It is a way to do business differently without having to reinvent everything. So that's something that we see often, that people start to realize that they can leverage this pertinent, very important information that they have in ways that perhaps they never were able to before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the key and part of the charm, part of the benefit of considering moving that data into the cloud. We worked with companies that needed to have very high performance data stores in the cloud. They were using VSAM on the mainframe, much more performant for a lot of workloads than DB2. And we developed an emulation of Cosmos DB, VSAM in Cosmos DB. And this allowed them to move those applications to the cloud and get all the benefits of the cloud, but be able to deliver the same or even better performance responsiveness than they had on the mainframe. So yeah, using the data in new ways, taking advantage of new data stores, either for performance, for analytics, for machine learning, the world opens up when you're able to move that data, unlock it from the mainframe and expose it to these services.
It's really exciting to talk about this, to realize what people can do now.
It really is. It's been, I tell you, think back over the last 50 years for me, and it's just been incredible, the advancements in technologies and what's been made available to us to be able to solve business problems.
Absolutely. So you talk about 50 years. I think the audience will be really interested to know what, 50 years later and where we are now. What do you see for this space moving forward? What are some of the options that are out there, or What are some of the ways that people can look at things differently that they never could before?
Yeah. Well, when I think of that 50-year spread, that again, technology advancements where, back in the 70s, you wanted to eke out every last little MIP out of a machine because the machines were so hugely expensive. Doing one MIP on a 370, 158, $3 to $5 million. And so that commodity was so expensive, you needed to do everything you could. Today, compute capacity is so inexpensive that you can use it to do things you'd never thought of doing in the past. Like AI, machine learning, BI. Let the machine do it. Don't write a program to do a lot of the pieces yourself. The kinds of advancements that I see, especially in the mainframe migration space, the tools continue to advance. Refactoring tools have gotten so much better at not just generating code, but code that's supportable and manageable, rather than just functional, and accurate. You think of rehosting technologies and the advancements that have been made there to be able to run the applications as is and not have to make any changes to the applications to run them on x86, Linux, or Windows. And I see that those advancements will continue. Embracing the new cloud data stores will become more and more important, and transparency between those. Being able to do things like backup to the cloud. We've got a partner that's done a very successful virtual tape solution that goes directly to the cloud for storage backup at a lower cost and even faster than doing virtual tape on the mainframe. So I see more and more of new technologies, new solutions, making it easier to move these workloads transparently, under the covers in some cases, without the user even knowing what platform your applications are running on. So there's some great technologies that will be coming to market in the next few years that have huge promise to make it easier to reduce capacity on the mainframe in a hybrid way and take advantage of the cloud.
Great. Bob, I know that I've been on some of these with you, but you are on calls early and late, especially with COVID for the last year and a half. So moving forward, where you're not going to be on calls all the time, what are you looking to do with your free time in this next stage of your career / life?
Yeah, thank you for that. It is actually, it was a real hard decision to make the decision to retire at the end of this month, and I still have my fingers into the pie doing some things, but just not working full time. And just the COVID, while it's been such a tragedy to people and the challenges we've all faced because of COVID, it's also been a blessing. That ability to work from home and not be on planes and traveling all the time. I spend much more quality time with my wife of almost 49 years has been a trial run to see what it would be like when I retired, which has been great for me. And part of it is shifting focus to be able to do more things with my wife, not worry about running out of vacation time at the end of the year, where I can do travel when appropriate, or spend time with my wife or kids or grandkids. I've got 3 children, 8 grandchildren, 1 great granddaughter of all things, and being able to spend time with them is really what I'm looking forward to. Catching up on the honey-do list, all the projects. Again, keeping my fingers into mainframe migration with a few of my partners, and then spending quality time. In fact, the first thing we'll be doing on January 11th, I'm going with 3 of my grandkids down to Disneyland. And so being able to experience Disneyland through 2 10-year-olds and a 4-year-old that's going to be so much fun.
That's going to be well earned. I know you'll have a great time.
Thank you.
Well, what will you miss the most about what you've been doing for, if not the last 50 years, for the last dozen years or so? Mm-hmm. What are the joys that you are a little melancholy perhaps about?
Well, the 2 things that I'll miss the most, number one, or not in a priority order, but one of those things is the impact of helping a customer understand what their options are and helping them choose the right path for a successful mainframe migration. That is so rewarding. Having those kinds of calls with the CIO, and the lights turn on and they say, "Oh my goodness, well, I had no idea that was possible." The second thing is missing the partnerships, the friendships that have been built up over the last 50 years, and especially the last 12 years around mainframe migration. The ecosystem of individuals is very, very small. This is a small community. We tend to all know each other, even though in some cases we'll compete. but we tend to know each other and admire and appreciate each other. And so just that opportunity to have conversations with, to connect with the people I worked with, the friends that I've had the pleasure of friendships building up over the last 12 years, I'll miss that the most. So it'll be important to make that shift, but still I will miss those conversations.
I know that we will all miss them. It's always been rewarding and comforting to be able to pick up the phone and say, Bob, what do you think about this? Is this feasible or viable? So
Yeah.
You will be greatly missed. I can tell you that by many.
Thank you, Walter.
Kind of closing up here, as we look back at your history and your knowledge, and again, you were, I think, the pioneer in this space. Can you offer any words of wisdom based on all your time in this industry to companies who are now starting to say, I'm seeing other people have success.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is something I should explore. Are there things that they should be considering or not considering that you can share with them?
Yeah. The key guidance that I give to customers as I engage with them is be sure that you connect with and work closely with, collaborate with a trusted partner. That, the migration projects that have been successful are those where the right partner has been selected, that it's a collaborative effort between the partner and the customer, that they work together, in hand in moving forward with the solution. As long as a customer does that, then it's going to be successful. So select the right partner, ensure there's a trusted relationship, and do that collaboration. That's the best way to move these things forward. Also, architecting the solution, assessing, analyzing, understanding, and architecting the full solution, and using the resources available to you. Don't do it yourself. Again, use partners, use people here at Microsoft that have deep experience with these migrations. Together, they can help our customer on this journey and ensure that it's successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know my very first mainframe migration was in 1994, and we did it by ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
I would never want to do that again. There are an awful lot of really, really good partners in this space who have gone through those experiences. And over 20 and 25 years, you learn what to do and what not to do. So your advice about partners, I think, makes great sense, as does ensuring that you take the time to architect the solution and understand everything that the mainframe does. There has to be an alternative for that as people look elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. And Walter, on a personal note, it's been such a pleasure working with you over the years. And I wish you well as you continue helping the customers with these migrations.
I am honored. And thank you so much for taking the time. Bob, you're going to be missed both professionally and personally. I've been honored to have you as a friend for many years, and you're someone that I and many people in this industry truly admire. So thank you for a wonderful career and everything that you've done.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay. And for everyone in the audience, thank you for taking the time to what I consider one of my favorite podcasts that we've done so far. I know that you all appreciate the words of wisdom that Bob was able to share with you. And if you have any questions, or if we can help with anything, or if you want to see any of the upcoming podcasts in this series, please visit us at www.astadia.com. Thank you all very much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And again, Bob, thank you.
Thank you. Great day.
Bye now.